right, so we're back at the hen. Local 219 here, back at the tree stand for the first time since hunting season's been over. It's been months of going on private land and public land, hunting all throughout the year. There's some deer poop there all through here. Look at all this deer poop. It's everywhere. If you remember, I dropped them a block and a couple bags of feed for the winter time. And we're approaching spring. It's March 1st. There's a guy. And we're going to take this trail camera. I got some stuff I must have left here. Yeah, looking. Everything's gone. Got some turkey feathers against the tree. It's been pawed around. You can see the lumps in the ground. I hear a turkey, but the batteries probably are dead in this thing. So we'll take the camera, take it back, analyze, and see what we had. So stay tuned for these pictures. Call 219 here. Now that I'm done traveling the state of Indiana for right now, it's time to get back into the swing of things. Now being jobless, I have to do a little bit of job hunting, and I went and talked to some people a few weeks ago. And on my way back, I was on that side of the county. I said, hey, might as well stop by, see how the landowner's doing, making sure, they have enough food. I mean, the economy's not doing great, folks. So, just, they're an older couple. And the wife of the landowner has some health concerns. So I just checking up on them, making sure they're okay. And they're doing well. They have enough meat in their freezer. And they totally enjoyed the pheasant that I gave them from the pheasant hunt that I went to down in southern Indiana, over there in French Lick area. So it was pretty good to touch base with them. Went back there, a lot of deer sign, a lot of poop. So they enjoyed the food, I'll tell you that. I'll roll in some pictures here and talk about what's on the agenda for this year in this spot. Over the course of the years I've been hunting this spot, I've also hunted other areas around this spot. And one of the things that I noticed that was a real big problem was does. Doe factories are a problem. They will eat you out of house and home. I've had this problem the last few years, and it looks like it's going to, now that I'm probably going to leave a camera out there after every hunting season now to kind of gauge what I'm going to be walking into next year. And there's a lot of does. There's a lot of chippiness going in here. I'll throw these pictures in there. Hopefully they're in there. A lot of chippiness between the nanny does and some of the yearlings that were born during the winter time, because these deer barely could look. All you saw was a tiny head on the camera. So deer were born during the winter months, and Mother Nature didn't take these fawns or predation. So in a sense, that's good. There's some of these does that I know for a fact that have birthed buck fawns in the past. I shot one this year thinking it was another doe this past year. So, I mean, when you start getting an imbalance in doe and buck ratio, it becomes a problem. And what I mean by that is, when you have that many does, there's no competition. Bucks aren't going to be fighting over each other. You know what I'm saying? If there's that many does. And at one point, I had 10 to 15 does around the block in the feed that I threw down on the ground. And that's a lot. I've seen this specific doe group before, but when that huge doe group left, another big doe group came into its spot. The block didn't last long. Even though I had a deer bump the camera and it pushed the camera up so we can't see down on the block. Just one of those things. And man, I'm telling you, a lot of does. Again, you know, where these pictures are being taken, man, this is at the point where antlers are being shed. So it's really tough at times to identify who's a buck and who's not from a trail camera. Unless you're sitting there and really, you know, paying attention, the camera can only give you so much information. That's why they say, you know, you can't kill them from the couch. You know, so being out there and taking a good inventory of your doe or your deer population, your deer herd, you know, is critical. Too many does means there's not a whole lot of competition that these bucks have to worry about. You know, they're going to have a lucky lady somewhere down the line, and it's just when are these other bucks going to hop off these does to go try and find another, you know, hot doe. But if you've got 60 doe, 70 doe, and you're only seeing 4 or 5 bucks, and they're not even really good, man, you're hoping one of those other bucks from a different you know area comes swooping in there to kind of, you know, push these smaller deer out and give you an opportunity to take him. But when there's that many doe in the area, man, then it really turns into a waiting game. There's no more seeking because there's just so many doe. And I've seen that, like I said, over the course of years when I lived across the way there. When I started shooting a couple of doe out of there and making it known that, you know, you're going to have a tough time if you're going to come swooping into the food plot that I had there at the Bad Internet house, like, then bucks started to really show up. You know, then they really started to move. You know, they started to widen their search area for hot does. And I'm sold on it. I'm sold on it. I've gotten stuck to the point where all I've seen for weeks is does. You know, and that's not good. That's not good. This, you know, especially when you're getting towards the rut, man, and you start seeing a little bit of sparring sessions, and it becomes more and more and more and more intense until you hit that peak rut. You know, October into November. You know what I'm saying? Even on the backside of November, you know, you want just a good selection of bucks in the area, and you won't get that with a ton of doe. Some people say, oh, you'll have all the bucks that you could ever think about. Not necessarily, because I'm telling you, when these doe groups move in, man, they decimate all the food. It's all gone. I mean, walking back there, you've seen it, man. They were scratching and clawing. You know, you had every critter on that side of the area, man, wandering through there and getting a piece of whatever I threw out there. And when you have these big doe groups, man, you got to kind of thin them out a little bit. There's just no point. And I've done that in the past, and I've seen good results for it. When you shoot some does out of there, you start seeing some bucks, man. They start getting desperate, man. They start coming around the area. Now, I'm not saying to shoot every doe of your property, but, I mean, you just want a good ratio, man. If I've got 70 deer and they're all doe, that's not good. It's not good. It's not good for my food plot, I'll tell you that. This past year, I have to plant it 2 or 3 times, maybe. So, I mean, it becomes tedious, man. And, you know, I don't want to spend all my time planting. I want to spend my time hunting, you know, and I want a good food source throughout the winter because food was scarce. And you can tell, I'll throw these pictures up there. Hopefully I'm rolling some other pictures of deer in here. But they got kind of, I don't know, ticked off at each other. Especially when some of these nanny does brought these really young deer into there, rearing up and kicking out other deer. So these smaller, almost fawnish type deer would get in there and get something to eat because, you know, it's wintertime. Everything's gone. There's no more acorns. The hay, the alfalfa, all that stuff has gone dormant. I mean, you know, there's not much to choose from. No berries on the bushes, things like that. So you saw there was a competitiveness to get it to the food block, into the bag of food I threw out, and it was evident. So this next year is going to be really doe patrol again. We'll shoot a couple of does. Maybe we'll get lucky, and you know, a buck will come moving in there. But I mean, not if there's a ton of does, especially during the rut, man. Bucks don't like it when there's a bunch of immature deer around them. You know, mature bucks, they don't, man. They hang out in their little cliques of bachelor groups, and after that, you know, all bets are off. You know, everybody's a problem, and those bigger bucks want to push the smaller bucks out so they can have free range of the does. But you know, when you have this big of a doe population, you can tell there's a lot of people that didn't hunt this year in that specific area, and I know a few people that did not even pick up a gun or a bow this year. So when the hunting starts to regress, then the deer population goes up. This is how this works for all the anti-hunters, you know, and that creates problems. You saw it in my videos, man. When you got this many doe groups and they're running around, man, you got people driving, you got school buses driving down in these areas, you know, and with the city expanding as much as it can't, the city that I stay in, it can't expand inside. There's not a whole lot of room to expand inside the city itself. So they're starting to expand out. And not only that, the neighboring city to the one I stay in is expanding out, and they're having a real big fight about annexation, the government annexing people's property to build for the city. And you can kind of see that in my area where I'm at. You know, the city can't expand from inside, so they go outward, and they're pushing and pushing and pushing. And you can see a lot more wildlife in some areas around the area where I hunt, man, that you never used to see a lot of, you know. And it's just people, man. People, you know, they could either, you know, create a great environment, or they can make an environment that's I don't know a good word, that deer do not like, that is an annoyance to them, and that's the presence of a lot of people. So that's been a little bit a cause of concern over the last few years. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But for the most part, man, a lot of does. There's a couple of straggly bucks in here. I'll throw them up there. And then there's some other deer that were way back in the cut that you couldn't really tell who they were. Again, this is in the times where deer are going to go through their cycle of shedding antler and to grow new antlers for coming up in the springtime, the spring and fall time. So it was really hard gauging who was who. But there's, again, even at the end of January, there's a lot of bucks that came through that were holding antler. You know, a lot of antlers were still not being shed. And even going back there, getting the camera, I walked a couple around the property and some of the boundage, and looked at some scrapes and some rubs that I knew were at, just make sure. Maybe you never know. Maybe they came back to that tree and, you know, they started to rub a little bit, and, you know, boom, there goes an antler. But I didn't find anything. Again, a lot of poop. So they enjoyed the feed that I gave them. Only problem was the guys that I wanted to show up didn't show up. Again, the hunt for the big guy, I think, is over. I think that was a once in a lifetime deer. Am I saying it's a 200-inch deer? No, but he was close to 170. He was close to 170. All of 170 from when I seen him with my own eyes walking underneath my stand one year, you know, during non-legal shooting light. Predation is low. I can tell because, again, there was some chippiness in competition over this food, and you had some nanny does bring in some really, really small deer. So you saw a lot of, I did anyways, I saw a lot of small deer that were born over the winter months that didn't succumb to Mother Nature, humans or predation, you know, cars or predation. You know, it was a sight to see, man. Usually, I think they say over 60% or something of fawns that are born in the winter don't survive. Well, the ones that I seen survived. Whether they're going to turn into be bucks or, you know, a new generation of does, I don't know. I'll know coming up this spring and fall, definitely, as long as, you know, nature or anything else doesn't take its course. So it was interesting to see. It's a real dynamic doe group, especially with a new one moving in. I don't know how that's going to shake the tails of the other ones, but it's probably not going to be good. That's probably why I've seen a lot of aggression, a lot of ears back towards these different doe groups. So competition for food was high this winter. Again, all the hay and everything is all dormant. There's nothing, no acorns, no nothing left, man. They're just scavenging the scavenge, you know. So this year, I think it'd be another doe patrol again, man. Even kind of hinting around to the landowner of this spot, man. Like, you know, can I bring my son in? Can I bring my friend in? He said he'd think about it. And he even talked about wanting to maybe experience it himself. The more the merrier. The more the merrier. I'm telling you, the people that research this stuff, the science speaks for itself when they talk about doe and buck ratio. You know, it really speaks for itself. And if you have a high doe population, you're going to have a real low buck, you know, sighting and situation on your hands. And I've seen it. I've seen it. I've seen doe factories. And it's not good, and it's not good for this small area. Just alone, man, looking on camera from where I dropped the feed and some of these doe groups that came in there, they would sit for at least an hour and a half to 2 hours. And that's not going to last long. Whatever I threw out there isn't going to last long, and you can kind of see it towards the end of January, first couple of days of February, it started to really look like a walkthrough spot again. A pinch point walkthrough spot after the food was all gone. And some of these deer still showed up. There's a couple bucks that kind of, you know, cruise through the area because I drove by that spot a couple of times during this time span of when that camera was out there. And I seen a couple of bucks out there. So we'll just have to see what comes. This spring when I start putting cameras up. Right now I'm focused on turkey hunting. Went and bought my turkey tag and license. So I'm going to be focused on that for the most part. Hopefully I get paid by YouTube. The small shillings that they give me will go back into probably the food plot again this year. I'm going to really make a really nice one. I got some people that are willing to come and help me do it. So that's even better. It's just not me out there raking and moving. Again, there's a lot of down trees in this spot, so those will have to be removed. And I'm going to make a pretty slick cutting lane that I've been wanting to do. And, you know, I always ask for permission if I do something on this gentleman's parcel, and he's like, go for it. So I've got a lot of things that I've researched over the internet and all these shows I've talked to. You do not think I'm talking to these people that are shooting 200-inch deer on how they're laying out their food plot and where they're putting their stands and you know, showing them the map of my area. You know, give me a good consensus. I know I don't have thousands of dollars to pay you in your consulting business, but this is, you know, 3 minutes that you could take to give me a piece of advice. And, you know, Don Higgins was fantastic at that, and some other people I talked to. So I greatly do appreciate that stuff. So stay tuned for the deer videos that will be coming here in the future, and look for these new turkey videos that are coming out. And for everybody that supports me, I greatly do appreciate it, especially the folks in the Rohirrim. I can't thank you enough. Channel membership is available if you want to get it. Give you some insights. Other guys already know this video is made, so they already know what's going on. So that's how you get insight into the channel. If you haven't noticed, the name has changed. No longer staying in 219. So it's just Roe Call now. So you can just call me Roe. Call me Roe Call. Call me Roe. That's it, man. So hopefully this turns around. We can thin out some of these does, and we can start seeing a good population of bucks showing up for this year's hunting season. Again, thank you. And like always, guys, we'll catch you on the next one.